Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this month's Story of event, where we invite and highlight the stories of entrepreneurs and small business owners making their mark in Iowa. We want to remind you that as we create, I'm sorry. We want to remind you that as you create your own story, treat yourself to this time each month to rekindle your entrepreneurial spirit. My name is TJ Daniels, and I am the Program Director of the Iowa Center's WBC. The Iowa Center's WBC is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration. You will all receive an email after this event from my colleague, Sierra Smith, thanking you for attending today's session, information on how to connect to our speaker, as well as a form to complete. Please do us a big favor and take some time to fill this form out. This information allows us to continue providing free educational programming for small business owners in Iowa. Now go ahead and take some time to locate the chat function on your Zoom screens so you could join the conversation by introducing yourself and your business, including the links, asking questions, or adding comments. And to those who have joined us today, thank you. It's great to see you all. Today's story of guest is David Tracy. David is an award-winning marketing and advertising strategist with a global perspective whose specialty is to curate effective, in-depth marketing campaigns that bridge international and cultural gaps. He is the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the American Marketing Association of Iowa and has traveled to over 40 countries, gathering a multicultural and multilingual team that push creative boundaries that fuse styles and perspective. David is well equipped to dive deep into consumer psychology in order to understand why people from many backgrounds gravitate towards certain aesthetics, design, and marketing messages, and translates that into effective brands and marketing strategies. As a result, he has attracted clients like Swiss investment brokers wanting to target clients throughout Latin America and businesses in Asia seeking to export and conduct business in North America. For clients in Des Moines, David's multi-layered approach has opened and welcomed a broader perspective. Thank you, David, so much for joining us for today's story of, don't laugh.
My bio is so long.
I know, and normally I would cut it out like a little bit, but you know.
They're good, we're good.
So I'm lucky to have known David for a while, and I've heard your stories and I've followed you, but let everybody know just a little bit about your background before Northgate Marketing.
Yeah, so Northgate is kind of it's like how I got to this point is really, really abnormal. I didn't go to school for marketing. I did international nonprofit work. The photo previously, by the way, which is where we move on, is my family. I have 4 daughters. So my family and I, we did international nonprofit work for many, many years. I grew up internationally. I didn't grow up in Iowa. I'm originally from Wisconsin, but lived there until I was 5. And then my parents moved to Canada, Texas, Florida, Guatemala, Mexico, and then 25 years in Panama. So I'm very multicultural and don't really have like a home per se. So I'm fully bilingual, speak Spanish fluently, think and sometimes dream in Spanish. And so I really, after doing international nonprofit work where I traveled to over 40 countries, I did things like earthquake relief, medical brigades. I did flood relief. We built homes for people who had lost their homes. We worked amongst orphanages. I organized international arts festivals to celebrate local artists, and small businesses, where we did international theatrical productions in multiple countries, including China, that I wrote. I wrote over 20 different theatrical productions. Did documentary film, did a lot of community development work, ranging from educational things to helping with literacy to working as a teacher in a boarding school for Indigenous students, where we help them get an education, but also retain their culture and their language. I mean, a bunch of stuff. I mean, I directed a nonprofit in Panama City, Panama that was focused on urban development for 5 years. And then I transitioned to Kona, Hawaii, where I worked in primarily international logistics, dealing with linguistics and literacy issues, as well as coordinating volunteer work in over 195 countries. So so where does marketing come into play here?
Right.
So
And why Des Moines?
and why Des Moines, exactly. So, having been in nonprofit work for so long, one of the biggest issues that nonprofits face are awareness and advocacy and funding. So how do you do that? So when I was doing a lot of the nonprofit work, I found myself gravitating on the regular to doing media communications, fundraising for different international trips that we needed to raise, say, $85,000 in 1 month, so I would help fund that, or help get funders to do that. That was part of it. But really what happened was we were living in Hawaii, and then I started to feel very sick after living there for a couple of years. For
Hawaii.
6 weeks, I was having really, really intense, very, very intense migraines, were to the level where I couldn't function. I was in bed for like almost 6 weeks with horrific pain that medication wasn't taking away. No matter what I tried, it just wouldn't lift. So I had cancer when I was 14, backing up a little bit, went through chemo, the whole nine. This was pretty intense. So we went in to get some ultrasounds and CAT scans and MRIs just to see what was going on. Was it brain related? Why was I having this incessant pain? And doctors couldn't find out why I was having the pain in my head, but they did find a mass in my liver. And we ended up doing a biopsy and found out it was cancer. And so we suddenly had to pack up and leave because the healthcare on the big island of Hawaii is not the greatest for areas that deal with oncology. So we went to Mayo Clinic. Long story short, won't go into all the details. I had the surgery. They did the biopsies prior to the biopsies afterwards. The biopsies prior to the surgery showed that I had cancer, and it was a hepatocellular carcinoma. After the surgery, I was supposed to get my final results back within 6 hours or a day, and it took them 4 days because they kept wondering what happened. And 4 doctors walked into my office 4 days later, and they were like, "You had cancer, and now you don't." So we don't know how to explain it. This kind of stuff happens. We did the surgery. We didn't have to, kind of a thing. I'm like, great. But it was really amazing because, everybody has different beliefs out there and stuff, but I believe in prayer. We had people praying for me, and that one of the Mayo Clinic doctors called me, and he was like, clearly God was shining on you.
Wow.
Because I had a new lease on life, all of a sudden. And it just completely changed. Okay, we left, we moved, now what? And at that point, there was a businessman from Korea who had met me, who had known me when I was in Hawaii. And he was like, he had tried to recruit me a few times to do business. He's like, you have a business mind. You're an entrepreneur. You're not a nonprofit guy. Like you have all your nonprofit ideas where it helped the economy, and and yes, there are nonprofit things I could have done, like the Iowa Center, for example, which I didn't know about at the time. But I ended up getting hired by him to help him promote his mobile app that he had developed throughout Latin America, and we moved to Panama again. And I promoted it all over the place. It started to go viral. I was on TV, lots and lots on different channels, and got thousands of people using this app that no one had heard of before. And then eventually he started a marketing agency. And because I was marketing the mobile app, he's like, you're good at marketing. This is something that you have a gift set and a talent in. So he recommended that we start a marketing agency. So I did that with him and his marketing agency, and it became international. And then, long story short, I won't go into all the details again, but we ended up transitioning out of that and feeling like we were entering into a season where we needed to be closer to our family here in the States. We had lived abroad a lot, and a lot of my wife's family live in southern Minnesota. I have some family living in Wisconsin, and basically we don't love the cold that much. And Des Moines is up and coming, it's growing. We had heard amazing things. My sister-in-law and brother-in-law live here in Des Moines, and it was a really great place to look at establishing and potentially doing business in. Now, when I moved to Des Moines, to be honest, I was completely burnt out from marketing. It's a lot of marketing is a lot of work if you're dealing with marketing strategy for dozens of clients at a time, and they're really the dependent on there to be results and so on and so forth. So I didn't really want to establish myself in marketing. So I looked into interpretation and translation services because I am an interpreter and I've done that professionally on stage and conferences and medical and legal. So I ended up applying to an interpreting agency in Des Moines called Voices Interpreting. And they brought me in and I thought I was being an interpreter. Like, no, we actually want to hire you to be our director of marketing. And at the same time, I had another business that was a mobile app company that was opening up here in Des Moines that was specifically food industry related. And they asked me if I would help them market their mobile app. And so I called my wife because I had these two opportunities and basically approached we just decided that we were going to do it, but we were going to do it kind of on our own terms. So we decided that we would work at the interpreting agency doing marketing, but rather than being an employee, she would subcontract to me because I was starting my own agency. And I decided I wanted to start an agency that was different than just a standard marketing agency. We wanted it to be philanthropic from the get-go, that from the onset, we would exemplify values of diversity, equity, inclusion. We would be philanthropic and give back to our community. We would actively seek out clients internationally. We would help small businesses. We would help bridge the gap, helping, say, startups, and which I'll give some examples soon, but startups in Ghana or startups in South Africa or startups in Panama, help them grow their business to a level where they could succeed and then also create bridges and so forth. So because I had traveled pretty extensively over the years, I had a lot of connections globally and I had met a lot of amazing people. So Northgate's team, which we can move on to the next slide, is a very diverse team. It ebbs and flows, but we have people from all around the world: China, Mexico, Zimbabwe, Indonesia, Taiwan, Panama, Mexico, etc., and throughout the US and Canada. And these most of the people, not everyone, but most of the people on the team have had former experience in both marketing and nonprofit work, global nonprofit work. So it was really interesting because we were able to help. Our mindset as an agency goes a little bit beyond just helping people get results with their marketing. It's how can we make a difference in our community? How can we make a difference in that arena? You know, how can we communicate values? And so it's very, just a little bit different. And so one of the things that I've absolutely loved about our team is the collaboration that we have. You know, so we can have, say, photography done by by Cici from Indonesia, who lives here in Iowa. And then the website's built by Rodrigo, who is from Mexico but lives in Illinois. And the content writing is done by Joanne, who is in her 70s, who is an amazing, gifted writer with over 40 years experience, who would have thought she was retired and done with work. And then we're like, nope, you're not done yet. Come on into work. And so she's just, she came in, and then we had graphic designer, Joe, who is from Minnesota, but now lives in Des Moines. And, you know, he's traveled around Asia. And then we have other graphic designers who were also from Asia at different points. And we come together and we create this beautiful website or this beautiful logo or this beautiful blog or whatever it is. But it's it's done so in a perspective that's, you can see the layers. At least we do when we're building, because it's this perspective and that color and that mindset. But we're also thinking about our client, and we're thinking about the people that are the target demographic for that client. So if we look at Des Moines as an example, Des Moines is a very, very diverse city. I mean, we look at the amount of immigration that has happened over the years from the Burmese, the Bosnians, many of the African nations that are also represented. It's a bustling, bubbling cultural hub in many respects. People don't think of that. When they think of Iowa, they think farmland, they think cornfields, but you come to Des Moines or you go to different parts of Iowa and it's completely different, you know. And I was absolutely loving going to Celebration earlier this year, seeing, I think they had an attendance of over 85,000 or something like that. People came through. I mean, it was exceptional. All of the different variety of Asian representation that was happening. And so I think that's one of the things that makes Northgate very different. It's definitely our people. And I just share this little video real quick. Next slide. You might have to double click it for it to play. I don't know if the audio is gonna work if it's plugged in, but it just shows the secret is our people, and that is 100% true of any business. So our slogan and even our email and our domain name is We Are Northgate. And it's the idea of
About to say, hold on, wait, we must have a dance party.
it was gonna happen. Nora knows. And but yes, I think we know that at the end of the day, when it comes to marketing, people are not just buying product, they're buying values. Some of the most successful businesses in the world are the ones who have very strong established values, and people buy into the values. Yes, there's a quality, and the values will also transmit into the quality of their product or their service. I think that's the same thing within Northgate. I think the beautiful thing about marketing is that we have this opportunity to literally tap into every arena of society. So we have clients in government, we have clients in healthcare, we have clients in this insurance and in real estate and in restaurants and you name it. Like there's so fashion and retail, and we can tap into the pulse of our neighborhood, the pulse of our community, and we are able to see that interconnectivity. I think that's one of the gift sets that I've often carried with me, is to see how people are connected, how our society is connected, and how can we collaboratively improve our neighborhood, improve our community. So when we do marketing and branding, we help our clients establish their values. What are your values? What are you standing for? What is this about? And that needs to ring and sound clear in the color scheme, the way the website presents itself, and their social media and email marketing, and so forth. And so as a result of that, and our global connection and our team members who are also globally, we've been able to, if we can go forward to some of the projects we've done. On the slide, we've been able to, as it was described in the thing, take on clients that I would say right now, a good 60% of our client base is local. It's here in Des Moines. But we've been able to take on clients like AgriLink, which is a Iowa-based company that is working in Africa, all around the continent, to help improve technologies in agriculture, specifically in the cassava production, and then help them import it to the US again. So that's a really prime example of how a company we've helped brand, do their website, and so forth. Let's wait for the slideshow to come up again.
So like when you're connecting with businesses like AgriLink, like how do you get those connections? How do you make those connections? How do you, as a small business?
AgriLink specifically was one of these really interesting things, because we are right across the street from you guys. We're at the 23 Grand, and that building brought in a lot of people in the building that I would have never been able to have hand selected it, but AgriLink's in that building, Africa Live Network's in that building. And we believed we were supposed to be in that building because it was empty and nothing was happening. And it's still growing, by the way.
Right.
Move into that building, lots of office space available. It was interesting to see, sometimes things happen for a reason. And so the fact that we had all these African businesses that were Iowa-based or working in Africa, and we had people in Northgate who were equipped to help them do that. And I had been to Africa multiple times. And from that process, we'll skim forward. We also got connected. People know me because I'm on multiple boards here as the VP of DEI for the American Marketing Association of Iowa, and being on the boards of Japan American Society of Iowa, as well as very connected with other nonprofits like Cultural and Embark and a few others locally. I make those connections with that. Iowa Sister States was one of the ones that was drawn to us because they work, it's a nonprofit that is directly linked with the governor's office that helps our sister states within Iowa. So we have Yamanashi Prefecture in Japan, for example, and like 9 others, which I don't remember all of them right now. But we help them rebrand, We help them with their website. We help them communicate and report on what's going on globally with their efforts to help with commerce globally in Iowa and around the world. And that, of course, opens up other opportunities in connection. So as we start that thread of like, okay, we're the global agency, we're the philanthropic agency, we draw in those kind of clients too. You go to the next slide, it shows, this is a brand we did that's based in Shanghai in China. It's they wanted to have a milk tea company brand that was at a Starbucks level of quality and brand, but we helped them brand it. And it's like, of all places, a US company helping a company in China brand. It just doesn't add up, but here we are. Next one. We can just,
Okay, one more.
one of the connections we got
Oh,
from Iowa Center was Alicia Velasquez. You know, she's Native American, Apache, originally from Arizona, moved to Iowa City and is an amazing artisan jeweler. She had a beautiful space, but it didn't have the essence of her culture in it. And she didn't know how to interpret what she was doing from a jewelry standpoint into her retail space to make it embody something that wasn't cliche, but that was authentic to her culture, that people would walk in from the different indigenous tribes or Native American tribes of Iowa and could feel at home. And we helped her design her space accordingly.
oh my goodness,
And
that's
so,
amazing.
So that was really amazing. Next one is Sakitete Tessa. He's a photographer in Ghana who has a sister-in-law, a sister or a cousin. It's a cousin, yeah, who is a lawyer here in Iowa. And she found out we were willing to work in Africa, and we helped him brand his company. He specifically is a fashion photographer who helps build awareness about waste, garbage waste and stuff that's happening there. And they make clothing out of recycled materials, and he does photography and advocacy along those lines. And then the next one is Hagua Inc. And Hagua Inc. is a company based in Panama that takes a certain ink from a plant that grows in the jungle from the indigenous tribe called the Embera, where I grew up amongst. And this is something that they used to do amongst tribe, but they helped them cultivate it and basically make it into a product that anyone can use around the world. It can be exported, so you can do a temporary tattoo similar to henna. And their actually primary target market is Japan. So we helped them rebrand their company. And I love that. That's the flavor of my life right there. It's random. Next one is Kava DSM. So some of you guys may have been to Kava DSM on 300 MLK. If you haven't, check it out. The owner wanted to do a Kava bar, which is a product based out of the Pacific, like you would say, Fiji, Vanuatu, those kind of areas, and wanted to have a vibe and an aesthetic, not only within her brand, but we also did the interior design for the space that representative both of the South Pacific while also representing her roots and Jersey Shore in New Jersey. So we did Kava DSM for them. Next one is Africa Live Network TV. That is an amazing, it hasn't launched yet, but later this year we'll be launching a streaming platform with video production made by Africans for Africans that's helping promote basically tourism, economy, anything. It's empowering people from Africa, and not only people who are living in Africa, but Africans in Iowa too. So we took them on as well and did branding. We're building their streaming platform for them and branding a lot of the different series and such. And we ended up getting Natasha on our team as a result. The wife of the owner of Africa Live Network TV is now on our team, and she's our social media and email marketing manager, which we love. And she works in Central Time Zone, even though she lives in Zimbabwe. So it's really fun. Next one is Japan America Society of Iowa, promoting Japanese culture in the state of Iowa. We help them redo their website. It's a really fun website. If you ever want to check it out, it has all kinds of bells and whistles. Built by Rodrigo from Mexico and living in Illinois.
Wow.
So next one is Swara. I love this one. So Swara is a woman from Kenya. She has a freight logistics company based here in Des Moines. But she wanted to have a brand that was representative of her roots in Kenya, but that would be identifiable and understood here in Iowa. So we helped her develop the name Swara, which means gazelle, so for swiftness, and then the branding. Next one. And I don't think so. We're still there. Next one, I'm waiting for it because I don't remember it. Water for Life. Water for Life is a really amazing nonprofit that helps build wells and helps clean water issues around the world, multiple continents. Jensen's parents are actually, his dad is the president of it. Jensen's our illustrator within Northgate. So this is the kind of examples. Do I have any other examples of this? I don't think I do. So Northgate has clients in over 22 states, 4 continents, and we can do marketing in over 9 languages. And we established ourselves here in Des Moines, February 7th of 2020, just shy of the pandemic. And the fact that we've grown and done that in a short period of time, I think we're still a young company. We're not the biggest agency in town. There are a lot of agencies in Des Moines. There are a lot of exceptional agencies in Des Moines. So we're not saying we're better than the other agencies or that we have even more experience, but we are different. We are different in the category of being global, of being able to our philanthropic values. And a lot of the clients we've taken on, which I've loved, we've received several from the Iowa Center who came and said, we don't have a large budget. We can't afford like some of the other agencies, but would you be willing to take us on? We've helped them to take them on and help them grow to a level, and we've stuck with them. And it's been really amazing to see how when you give a little as well, you actually get back, because in long term, we might have given a discount in the onset, but in the long run, they keep growing, you know? So it's really fun. We also have worked in over 20 plus distinct types of industries. So a lot of the agencies focus on a niche category, but we don't like that. We like variety. I get bored really easily. So, so that's a little bit about Northgate. We still have a long way to go, but our goal eventually would be to have HQs in different parts of the world where we could hire local people around the world and continue to create that connectivity and international engagement, where we could see foreign exchange students from Iowa working in Africa and people from Africa working in Iowa and whatever, that bridging those gaps. So before I move on to my last thing, which is a whole other project within Northgate I really want to highlight, does anybody have any questions about what I've said so far?
And we could allow people online to ask questions as well. But of course, I'm a huge fan of Northgate Marketing for just seeing some of the clients that has come to us, and you're helping with the concept, sourcing products, all the way to the end with the website design and things like that. So that's what really got me excited. And then once I met you and learned more about your values, I think that's what kept me there. Because of course, as a small business, you have to be in it to make money. I mean, that's, you know, our work, and you have to be firm on the value of what your work is. But you've always been willing to be a little bit flexible and assist our clients. And so that's what gets me passionate about Northgate Marketing. Does anybody here have a question?
I got a question for
Yeah.
David. So those last couple slides kind of resonated with me because I work here at the Iowa Center, and we help a lot of people and a lot of small businesses kind of start off like how you wanted to be philanthropic and, you know, a certain target, you know, client. What sort of challenges have you faced? You know, I know you talked about, you know, maybe you want to give a discount at the beginning because of budget concerns and things like that. Could you just maybe expand a little bit more on the pitfall, or I don't know, just the pros and cons of that? Or
I mean, we've definitely had our learning curves when it came to where do we do pro bono? Where do we do a reduced rate? Where do we not? Couple examples. I had a prospective client that was based in another state. I won't say exact because they might, but they had a large budget. There was no reason why they needed a discount, but they expected we would give them one because we were more philanthropic in our nature. I said, sorry, it's meant to help certain categories, and we have a limit too. As long as we can take on some of the lower budget clients or do some pro bono work for nonprofits, as long as we're succeeding. If we go out down with the ship, there's nothing to give. So we've run into that. I think every arrangement is different. We evaluate the client's long-term goals, where they're going to be, what are their projections are, but it has to be a give and a take. Like sometimes we've had clients who took what we did and they ran with it full-fledged forward, and they were growing. Other times we helped and we get them going and they don't do their part, and there's not much more we can do to help. There's a give and take in both situations. What we do and how we structure it is all different. What we look at the end of the day is how much can we help without losing money on our end, or an exponential amount of time that takes us away from higher paying clients. So it's always evaluating the temperature of our own workload, and also looking at, for example, there's been times, for example, where we have taken on clients who had a lower budget specifically because they were in an industry that we had never worked in before. So it was like, this is a new one for us. This is a good thing for us to dive into because it helps our portfolio as well. So I just think it's case by case in many respects. I will say that the ones I presented are some of the favorite projects I've had to work on, but we work in dozens and dozens and dozens of other ones that are, with our standard, insurance or healthcare, exciting, but they're exciting in their own dynamic, but it is, how does that help an agency locally when we are more global in nature? I think it's that we have perhaps a better perspective on the community around them. So as we know with DEI stuff, one of the things I talk about when I do workshops on diversity, equity, and inclusion is I cannot stand tokenism. And that is where, well, we're just going to put people from different cultures in our advertising because that makes us look good. No, that's not a value. True values is you actually understand the value of your community around you, and you showcase it because you value it, not because it's going to make you look good. Yes, it makes you look good because that's a value that our society is now embracing. It wasn't embracing it for a long time. There had to be change. We were focused on, well, we weren't even focused on it. Let's put it that way. So it had to become an attention piece. I think you can take things too extreme. And so there's so many examples and stories of that, but I think that at the end of the day, it is 100% about understanding your client, understanding their target market, and taking it case by case.
So I know you started like right before the pandemic. What were some of the, I know there were certain challenges, but like, how did you overcome them? Like, how did you keep going? I know even before the pandemic, you had, your workforce outside, and you already was probably familiar with Zoom and things like that. When we started with the pandemic, we was not familiar. Like, we had to jump in there and just do it. But what were some of the challenges, funding and things like that?
Well, we definitely had our challenges, and I tell you, doing any startup is nerve-wracking. Having the pandemic hit you, we didn't know what was coming. Like, it was just like, wow. I panicked and I prayed a lot. But basically I talked with, the amazing thing was that how we had structured our company from the onset was global in its nature. It was remote. We were already working on Zoom anyway. We didn't have the time to have an office, so we weren't really affected the same way as others were. Additionally, I wasn't only reliant on the local Des Moines market, because when I started in Iowa, I had just moved here. I didn't know people. In fact, the first year that I was in Des Moines doing Northgate, I didn't meet hardly anyone in person because everything was, so there's a lot of people that I was connecting with, clients I was meeting with virtually. I didn't get to meet them in person until the next year. Really interesting. But we had already kind of functioned in that model. And one of the things that was interesting to see was as we were doing our business development and looking and seeking for business, we would see how different places would be in lockdown. And then we would focus our efforts on another area and we focus our efforts on another. We weren't limited to only our Des Moines local market, so we could transition. 2020, interestingly enough, a lot of people were very optimistic. And they were like, well, I have time, I want to start a new business. And they realized as well that they needed to do more e-commerce or online presence needed to improve. And so we actually did well. 2021, everything started opening up again and people were getting kind of excited. So that was a good year. This year's been a little interesting. We had a couple months this year where it's like, where are people at? Because all of a sudden they're talking recession, and so from it's just navigating like risks and working with our clients. I think probably 50% of our clients are startups. And so there's a lot of nerves. We wear different hats. We are a marketing agency, but I have been counselor. I have been business consultant in different cases as well. But the big thing we talk with them about is we are with you. We want to help you get there. So
being that you did start with like a home-based business or, not having a set location, how did you get out there and meet people? How did you get your name out in the community? How did you, network?
Yeah, so here locally in Des Moines, I networked primarily through joining different, there was a couple of networking groups I joined. So one of them was Sinners Here. I have Nora over here in the corner, yeah. That was an amazing outlet for me. It was the first networking group I'd ever joined. That was amazing. I also volunteered my time in places like Iowa Center to do seminars and workshops and a few of the nonprofits that we also partner with, and that got me exposure and connectivity. I mean, on any given week, I was meeting 20, 30 new people. So, it's very, you have to hustle.
So it's literally getting out there, networking,
Yeah,
volunteering sometimes, and
Yeah.
just meeting people.
meeting people, yeah.
When you first started, I guess, did you have a mentor or somebody to help you through that startup phase, and then funding? How did you fund your new business?
We didn't take out a loan the first year, so that was something.
Bootstrapping.
Bootstrapped it. And because we had skill sets, what we did do was there were several of us in the onset who were willing to work for almost nothing to start with. There were several people on the team who they weren't making a great salary with Northgate. They had to work elsewhere to start with, and then gradually got more and more involved in Northgate to where they could be full-time. We did that to kind of just not have to take out that loan. And then secondly, we had, in terms of business mentorship, I would not say that I had excellent business mentors in my life, but I had exceptional mentors when it came to understanding our community and understanding the thread of society, understanding what makes communities work. Amazing people. That helped me because I think the thing with business is we have to understand consumer psychology. We have to understand why our prospective clients are going to choose our brand or service over someone else's. What makes that happen? And it comes down, like I said earlier, it comes down to values. It comes down to culture. It comes down to accessibility and ease and a lot of things. So I think having worked in community development, urban development, a lot of those different things, cross-culturally, it helped me understand how to do biz dev better, to build a reputation locally, and also to help our clients do the same.
Okay, I could keep on asking questions, but I want to make sure I save a space for other people to ask questions. So if you have any questions,
Or anybody virtually.
or anyone virtually, please feel free to ask.
Or if my team who may be watching as well have any comments or questions.
Right, comment, you guys. So I know you recently moved into a new location, and I know as a small business owners, a lot of times we're like, grow, 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 move, move, move. So are you right now resting and just, being in your moment, or what do you have something planned like next for Northgate?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't think we can ever rest. When it comes to business development, I think a lot of this is what I'm learning is that for every 10 people I meet, I might get one client. So if you really rest, you know, if you're not hustling and you're not out there pushing, and of course, the more clients you get, the more word of mouth referrals you get, it gets a little easier. I think it's really hard for me to say a pattern or look at patterns because the last 3 years have been unlike anything we've ever experienced globally. Like no one was prepared for what happened, right? We've had so many changes in the economy, healthcare, you know, politics, the whole nine, that where's our north, right? And so I think if you stay still and you don't expand, it's difficult. You stay stagnant. You know, so we got to constantly be flowing. I would say that our next stage really came down to understanding our strengths and understanding our value when it came to certain things. So yes, as a philanthropic based marketing agency, there are certain categories we can continue to do that in. There are certain categories we realized we could not do that in. There are certain categories that cost us too much time. So we had to raise our prices. We had to raise our prices with some services, whereas we could keep others more. So that was an ebb and flow. The other thing was establishing that, you know what, actually interior design is an amazing thing for a marketing agency to do, but it needs to be a separate business. So we split that, and that's its own business now. Midnight Food Coma, which I'll talk about another thing, is another form of advertising that we did for Northgate. And that is a YouTube show. So one of the best ways to advertise, if you can advertise people, is to entertain them and not outright. So I'm a certified chef on top of doing marketing. And I love cooking. I've done banquets and catering. And
I don't think I knew you was a certified chef. As nosy as I am.
Yes. So I studied in Le Cordon Bleu, and then I graduated from Escoffier out of Boulder. And so it is one of my passions, and I thought I was going to be a chef for many years. In fact, there was a time in my life where I was at the crossroads between either being a full-time chef, a filmmaker, because my brother's in filmmaking, I wanted to be in filmmaking, or I wanted to be a cultural anthropologist, or I wanted to be a diplomat.
Oh my goodness.
And there are four very different branches. And what I realized was that marketing let me tap into all four of those things in a very random, weird way. And so Midnight Food Coma, which we can pull up here, the trailer for, is a show that was made by Dan, our director, our COO and director of video production, and myself, and many people on our team. That is a way of Northgate having a little fun. It is, I'm not sure if they can hear, I'll just wait till it's done.
Can everyone online hear?
Well, it's slowing it.
Or do we need to plug in the internet thingy?
It's almost done.
Oh, okay.
No
No
audio.
audio.
Okay, that's okay. We'll move on. All right. Well, I think the audio was probably didn't work there, but that's okay, because the homework will be to go to YouTube and look at Midnight Food Coma. For those of you who are in person here, you have a little card there with a QR code. Would love if you would subscribe to the show. That would help us a lot with getting the word out. But it is
amazing.
a really fun show. It melds, it's very genre splicing. So it melds our passion for food. Right now we're focusing primarily on Asian cuisine, but we will branch out at some point. And it also blends elements of sci-fi with retrowave 80s vibes. So the way we describe it sometimes is Anthony Bourdain walks onto the set of Stranger Things. So it's very, very fun. So in some of the episodes, I'm making kimchi and getting chased by monsters, and other moments I'm getting abducted by aliens, or about to have Thai food with a sorceress. I mean, it's very out there. So it's fun. So we gotta have fun. So I think Midnight Food Coma is a way for us to have fun, and also to advertise Northgate and our ability to do an exceptional video production and branding and concepts on the side. So subscribe. The other thing that we're doing is we are actively, so there was a season here where we were we started 2020, 2021, we were much more global. 2021, 2022, we focused more locally because we didn't have much presence locally, so we wanted to get more local. Now we're trying to do both. So we're actively pushing right now the future. There's many futures in the world, but I believe the future of the next boom, entrepreneurial economic boom, is going to happen in the continent of Africa. It is untapped territory in many respects. And a lot of places like China are going there to do business and so forth. So we're really focusing our attention there. We're also continue to focus on Asia and also Latin America, but we are actively this year, the remainder of this year and part of next year, going to be pushing on getting client base in Africa. So.
Oh my gosh. So you guys for sure go check out Midnight Food Coma on YouTube. It is amazing. For all of my speakers that I have, I always ask, what if there was one thing that you want our clients to know today, what would that be? I know I should have probably let you know ahead of time. But come on, go.
I actually asked that same question because I have a podcast, by the way. It's a Northgate Cafe, available on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music.
Hold on, wait. So, okay, and we have a few minutes left. I'm nosy, you guys. So I just saw his calendar and his schedule and all this stuff that he has going on. I know you have 4 daughters.
Mhm.
What do you do for fun? Like,
Midnight Food Coma, the podcast. and-
but that's still work technically, but that is fun for
It is
you.
fun. I think that there's that old saying, I'm probably gonna botch it. It's if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, right? So, I mean, that is true. There are days where I don't love what I do. Let's be honest. I mean, there was a couple months ago, I was really struggling because I had taken on too much. My health suffered for it. But, part of it is loving what I do. Part of it is having exceptional people. So Joe Olson, he does our podcast, and I don't have to do much, honestly. He does everything. So I just show up and do the interview. Midnight Food Coma, honestly, I don't do a lot. I come up with some ideas. I show up to be on camera. Dan pretty much does everything. All the video production, the editing, there are people like Joe and others who help. But Dan is doing like 95% of it. All of our blogging and content writing is being done by Joanne. So I have really exceptional people. Websites, once we get them going, Rodrigo and Michelle and Dan, if he's doing them, I don't have to wonder. They're so good at what they do that I don't have to wonder if that website's going to get done. So, yeah.
Having a great team.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a question then, because we talked about how you get your business, networking, being involved in the community. Would you say that's the same way that you get employees? Because I think that's something people really struggle with too. is getting employees.
Employee stuff is hard. For me, I have had some hits and misses. I will say we have had more wins than losses. And part of that was because we didn't base our hires on only skill set. It was based on chemistry and shared values. So that was important. And that's what kept our team growing. The ones who didn't share those values, or they had great skills, but they didn't work out long term. Because at the end of the day, it does not make sense to take on a client that doesn't make you a lot of money to everyone. It does not make sense to go the extra mile and do these volunteer things on the side. Doesn't make sense unless you have that as a value. So that's part of it. I think the other thing that we've done very, very, very intentionally, because you have to be intentional, is that we were very intentional that we wanted to hire people from multiple backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, and nationalities. And so that made us think outside the box.
Outside the box, right?
And so there's that. But a lot of the hires we've had have been referrals from other people in our team. Hey, I have a great friend Michelle was one of the people who joined us recently. She was from one of the people on our team was like, I know Michelle, you should connect with her. Javier, who's helping us with SEO, I've known him for 10, 12 years in Panama. And he was in carpentry. And then he went to school for SEO.
What?
So he
Thinking
reached out.
outside the box.
Yeah. So some of the ones, I use Jensen as an example and embarrass him, is he was an exceptional artist, really exceptional artist, illustrator. Never in a million years would have considered, I think, a career in illustration unless someone had come along and said, I mean, you might have wanted to, but
Did
hey.
you, Jensen? Or did somebody kind of push you firmly?
He pushed me through.
Yeah, I appreciate
But do you love it now?
It's my passion. I just never would have considered it anything more than a hobby and called it out and he believed in me. And now because of them.
So, yeah, it's finding the little nuggets of gold and polishing it. So let's do this. Let's push it to the next level. So that's what excites me. We're hoping in the long run to be able to keep on hiring and hiring and hiring and growing and growing and growing, but
Has to be the right
it has to be
fit.
the right fit. And yeah,
Okay, so now back to the one piece of information that you would want small business owners, clients to know.
purpose. What is the purpose of your life? What is the purpose of your existence? You know, and what are you here to fulfill? I think we all have one. And then you need to find that out if you don't know what that is, because if you know what that is, you know, at the end of the day, if I were to define my purpose, one of the purposes, you know, they all have many. I often say this to our team, I wanted to have an adventure with my team members to change the world. You know, that was the idea. So how that looks and how that manifests is different for everybody and whatever. But for me, I wanted to have fun and have an adventure while doing so to make a difference. So, hey, Northgate will evolve. We're going to change. Maybe at some point we won't offer every service we offer. Maybe we'll hone it down to this, but those values will stay the same. So know your purpose and discover it.
And I will say, let me see, Joanne said, what David won't tell you is that we all know we have something very special, that we value each other. What we do isn't collaboration, it's building a company while we inspire one another.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't want to throw the Iowa Center out there, but like,
Well, let me.
but let me, but let me.
Sort of
I
word
mean,
out, it seems like.
you've met us. We're amazing.
Mhm.
We're-
I love it. I
We're
have nothing
amazing.
but good things to say
We
about
have an amazing team.
Yeah.
And the same way you hire your team, that's the same way
it. Mhm.
that our team has been hired. It's not always about, I mean, of course, you have to have some skill set.
Yeah.
But it's about the personality and the value and once that all blends together, you come with an amazing team that actually cares about the work that they put out and about the clients, and you know, so it all fits just because of how everybody feels and values.
100%. And I love the Iowa Center so much that TJ is going to be on our podcast coming up on Northgate Cafe. Talk all about it.
I can't wait. Thank you so much for being here today, David. Thank you for always being willing to assist our clients. I really do appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So as we head into the weekend, I want to invite you all to visit the Iowa Center website. We have a lot of incredible programs designed for the small business owner. Coming up September 27th, we have our Small Business Essential Top 10 Pitfalls to Avoid When Starting a Business. That will be presented by our very own Professor Jay. On September 29th, we have Dream Maker Virtual. It used to be called Dream Builder. It's now called Dream Maker. It is a in-depth plan focusing on developing your business plan. We'll be using Live Plan for this class. October 4th starts Focus Me. That is our mastermind brainstorming accountability group for small business owners. Also, October 4th, we will start a new program, a new accountability group for our clients. You could either join in online or you could come in person. We'll be here for an hour and we'll work together. We'll stay focused and hold each other accountable. October 13th, in the evening, we'll start another new program called the Learning Lab. We will network, talk about a specific topic. This month's topic will be the sales tax change that just happened for small business owners here in Iowa. So we'll have a subject matter in-house to assist. And then we'll also be able to discuss other topics for small business owners. And of course, if you've ever listened to any of my webinars, the one piece of advice that I always give, which actually fits into what David just said, is love what you do and do what you love. Thank you all for joining us today, and I hope to see you at future events. somebody logged us.
I got it.
We have donuts and coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Donuts are from Bees Dough Co. So please eat those, and coffee without creamer, sorry. But please enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Can we take these cups? Okay, so you can take your cup, so you can remember me.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, David. That
Thank
was
you.
great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
I don't care. You
Well, I know.
I know, so you gotta put a name on it.
You know,
Cups
we
for
do
me,
that,
I could
you know,
put
Oh,
the name
well,
on
as
it.
you come
the name
across
of the
it.
cups she could engrave.
Oh, yeah. I can do those.
Yeah, we had, it was a plant from the Met.
Oh, that's
You know,
over the top.
for those people, we should-
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, would love to connect
And
with
then
you.
for all of us,
I appreciate
our,
you.
you know,
Oh, thank
we
you.
have our names.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I know, Mama needs to hear about you.
Oh, yeah.
Don't feel like.
I should change the world.
Dirty.
I think you should give them a shout out.
Thank you
I
for
should-
coming.
That'd be interesting. We were just doing something with Yali. The
That's
young
foundation,
application,
yeah. We'll have a
So,
lot
yeah.
of stuff coming up, so.
Love you. We're gonna keep in touch.
All right, sounds good.
You know, this is our first time.
You walked in, I was like,
Late, you know.
There's always gonna be,
Actually, I have that here. But, I'm schedule.
Oh, we started again, like.
Cause I think about there's more credits, right? You could have to put that stuff. No, because Social Security. So get that discharge thing.
We have to be about action.
Absolutely.
So even if you can't have it, we'll have it again. We'll keep it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, but.
And then the strategy list of
Because we're here to help.
which bills to pay off,
You know what
so.
I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm like.
So actually, next Friday.
Talking about our,
Oh,
yeah.
My house next Friday. So we're going to-
Yeah.
very.
Just ask.
We're doing it.
We're about because I actually haven't been.
Oh, really?
Well,
We got in bed with this.
Oh, yes. In this building, but yeah. not-
Oh, so you saw it like.
So, that was like the last thing I had put in or whatever, I think at one time.
You expected to, that was right before I came on board. That's your track record. You just expected
So
to-
that was 2020, but it must have been. really
Yeah,
2020.
maybe, they probably would change it if
But
I
I started out,
job. I didn't.
when it was over.
CJ, oh, that's your credit card. That's when I started, actually. Your credit card's like debit card.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Who said that?
You like always wanted to be really involved.
They
in
might
just
not
having
want to
an
say
hour
it.
and just have
What did
a
this
little
say?
to say.
But I think
Because
it's
there's
just,
a lot of
well, I
things
just put my
that, you know,
part-time
you
job
did.
because it's only kind
Well,
of.
try Meridian.
Like in
Meridian
my
has a security credit card as well.
Now I'm in a.
US Bank